Hello and welcome to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. We're brought to you every week by our sponsors, PrecisionHydration.com.
Precision Hydration offer electrolyte drinks in different strengths to match how you sweat. Personalise your hydration strategy today at precisionhydration.com and get a free box or tube of pH worth up to $9.99 using the code Oxygenaddict.
We're also brought to you by FuelCells.co.uk.
The next generation of nutritional carriers designed to allow endurance triathletes and cyclists to carry enough food and gels while allowing easy access. You can get 20% off with the code Kona20. Check it out at FuelCell.co.uk.
And we're also brought to you by TeamOxygenaddict.com.
Event-specific training plans, coaching support from your host Rob Wilby, monthly video coaching calls and a private Facebook group for you and your teammates.
And another quick reminder and shout out there, you can join our new Oxygenaddict Triathlon community page on Facebook. Just type that into the search bar in Facebook, Oxygenaddict Triathlon Community Facebook page. We've now got Hells just shy of 500 members, if you can believe that, in 1 week. How cool's that?
That's pretty insane. I signed up, Rob.
You're in there. I saw you, Hells.
I'm in there. I said hello. Yeah, it's great. Loads of like-minded, lovely triathletes.
It's ace, isn't it? There's a lot of chat going on in there. So yeah. We'll be referring back to our Facebook page later on today with all kinds of bits and bobs that have been thrown up over the last week.
Yeah, so it's an Oxygenaddict Triathlon community if you look it up in Facebook.
All right, so welcome to the show. And Hells, I believe you have been a brave lady this weekend out racing in the wilds of North Wales.
Yeah, but Rob, I've seen photos of Weymouth and I was like, oh, we got lucky up in North Wales, which you don't often say, do you? You usually say, oh yeah, South Coast, really nice. No, North Wales is a place to be, Rob. Weymouth looked just horrendous.
It was
North
four
Wales,
seasons in one day, wasn't it?
Oh my goodness. North Wales, the weather had looked grim for I don't know, like all week, and you're sort of checking it. It was a bit like waiting for Ironman Wales last year, and you're looking and it says 40, 50 mile an hour winds, and then you're seeing like thunder and lightning, and you're thinking, that's really not good. But then gradually, as the weekend got closer, the weather improved, and suddenly at like 7 p.m. on Sunday, it was showing sunshine, and you're thinking, great. And then by, Saturday morning, it said sunshine from the start. And I was like, yes.
It was super nice, was it, for race day for you?
It was great. It was the sea. So I think on Saturday, for the people doing the sprint, I think they had a bit of chop, and I think the conditions were still quite tough. But for us, Rob, on Sunday, we had like Mill Pond and that stunning view that you can only get if you're at Newbury Beach on Anglesey, looking across to Snowdonia with blissful blue waters in between. It was just stunning.
Ace. It certainly doesn't sound like it was like that down in Weymouth. They got the brunt of your Saturday's weather, didn't they, for sure? So I think we'll talk about that a little bit more when we jump into the results section. So do you know what? That seems like a pretty good segue. Let's go into our results, shall we? So
should we do it? Should we start in Weymouth, Rob?
Let's do it. We'll do first, though, a shout out to sponsors PrecisionHydration.com, who sponsor the results section. What I did this week, Hells, was I put up a little post saying thanks very much to them in our Facebook group with a little picture of some stuff. And a few people jumped on it and said nice things about them, so I thought I'd read it out by way of their little sponsorship segment this week. So first up, Claire Cotterill said, I started using their products after struggling on the run at Lakesman Fall this year. I contacted them after hearing about them on the podcast. I got the free sample and then the 20% discount in August. They're so helpful. Sending me links for info and advising on products. Highly recommended. Shane Davis says, literally a revolutionary product if you've got a high sweat rate like myself. And Chris Hodges said, I love this stuff. I swear by it. So a bit of love there for Precision Hydration in the Facebook group. Very impressive. Thanks, everybody. And it's good that people are trying it out and finding it useful and successful, isn't it, Hells?
Oh, yeah, totally. I was racked, Rob, by a Precision Hydration ambassador and listener to the show, and a guy that randomly, Rob, we had on 2 weeks ago. Oh, yes, Lewis Eccleston. I was racked by him.
Brilliant.
And I was convinced I was in a bloke's wave. I was like, where are all the women in this blue wave at the beginning? All I could see were men, and I was racked by men, and I was thinking, have they got this wrong? No, it's fine. There were other women. It was all okay.
There were some there, were there?
There were. And so, yeah, Lewis and I had a little photo with our precision hydration headgear.
Nice.
Hey,
well, listen, listeners, if you're into the finding yourself some electrolytes market, get yourself a precision hydration. You can use the code Oxygenaddict to get £9.99 worth free of pH. So that'll get your electrolytes nice and balanced. And if you're a heavy sweater or a very salty sweater, or even if you're not sure what's going on with your sweat, you can take their online sweat test. That'll give you a real good guidance for whether you are at one of the crazy ends of saltiness or heavy sweatiness. And if that's the case, you need to get on top of keeping on top of your electrolytes, and precision hydration are the guys and girls to do that for you. So get over there and check it out. First up, Hells, a place where being hot and sweaty was possibly not top of everybody's agenda was Weymouth for the 70.3 down there, where it looks like they had winter came early on race day.
Well, and it was about 7 degrees, I think, and they had to cut the swim short, so it was 950 meters. That came on like advice from the safety team.
Yeah.
And then, Rob, these stats tell you everything. So 7 of the pro men didn't finish, and 4 of the pro women.
Wow.
So nearly 50% of the pro men, in fact over 50%, did not finish.
It looked super chilly, didn't it?
Yeah, and the wind, there's like a really, really good photo from Ironman Live of the bike course, and oh god, it looks horrible, Rob. So yeah, all just grey, and everyone in their jackets and arm warmers and gloves and stuff like that.
British weather though, you've got to be
exactly.
It's called Ironman. It's not called Football Man, isn't it?
So true, so true.
Got to be a bit tough to get through it.
Oh, I know. It looks like it was a really good race at amongst the pros.
Yeah, it does, definitely. We had first up in the men's race. I feel really sorry. We had Will Clark on the show a little while ago, and again, Will was going super well, and I think it bodes really well for his race out in Kona in a few weeks' time. He was about 4 minutes clear, I think, when he punctured, and he was still at about 30k to go on the bike, so he was riding super well. Obviously the coaching with Botti's going well for him, and he's got the form there. So puncture didn't hold, his sealant didn't hold, and then he was so cold trying to change it, he ended up not finishing, bless him, but he was going really well there. I think on the men's race it looks like we really have to follow through, Hells, on our promise to get Elliot Smales on now, don't we? He couldn't win any more stuff this season and not be on the show yet.
No, we have to get Elliot Smales on.
He's next in the crosshairs, isn't he?
He's on the list. Definitely on the list.
He's on my piece of paper that I've got in front of me from last week with Elliot Smales circled and underlined. Like, get in contact and get him on.
Right, that is good. That's going top of the to-do list then.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So yeah, he took the men's race out in 4:03. He had a 3-minute run of victory there over Sam Pictor from Great Britain, and Sam Proctor was in third.
Yeah, great race.
Fraser got
both
fifth.
Sams.
I hadn't seen that before. Fraser Cartmel got fifth. That's great. So head back in the show notes, and a couple of episodes back we had Fraser Cartmel on. So he's pretty much winding up his pro career, but was a legend of 70.3 and Ironman distance racing in the UK for sure. And my interview with him was one of the favourites I've done in a while. Actually, I think he's a really great guy. So get back and listen to that one. What happened over in the ladies' race, Hells?
Well, Rob, if you're going to make your 70.3 debut, you may as well do it in a minging race on the South Coast, mightn't you?
I guess so.
So, former ETU champion, European triathlon champion, India Lee. She was making her 70.3 debut, and yeah, her run absolutely made the difference, Rob. And she went on to take the win. She had a cracking run. Ahead of Nikki Bartlett was second, and then Fenella Langridge was third, and it was a sprint finish between them because Nikki just got it by 5 seconds. So wow. Absolutely fantastic racing there, and really happy for for Nikki. I know she's in a dilemma between Ironman Italy and whether to stay here or go over to Italy. So I reckon she was pretty chuffed with her second place down in Weymouth.
Yeah, and a shout out to Oxygenaddict coach Susie Richards, who got 5th place. There's a good photograph of her on Try 24/7 standing with the other ladies by the podium, which is a cracking end to her first season racing pro. Well done, Susie. Okay, Great. Where are we off to next, Hells? Let me have a little scan down.
Where do you want to go, Rob? That's the big question.
Bit of China action?
Yeah, let's do it. First of all, Rob, it's almost like with the names that we're about to talk through, it's almost like we could rewind to last week's show, because clearly a lot of the athletes who raced at the Gold Coast then went and raced in China as well. So it's a Beijing International Triathlon. It's a non-drafting race. So it's a 1.5K swim, 40K bike, 10K run, and cracking result there for Johnny Brownlee, who took the win. So it's his first win of the season. He finished just ahead of Christian Blumenfeld. And then last year's winner, Henry Schoeman of South Africa, was third. Ali Brownlee finished in fourth.
And pro ladies results, we had Ashley Gentle take the win from Non-Stanford and Lucy Hall. So yeah, like you were saying, everyone must have headed back there on the way back from the Gold Coast, eh?
Yeah, and then next stop Jersey, Rob. A lot of them will be racing again this coming weekend at Super League Jersey.
Great stuff.
So they're racking up the air miles, aren't they? And Johnny Brownlee said afterwards, "I've missed this feeling, the winning. Great to feel good in a race and win the Beijing Tri this morning. Tough course and a stacked field. Felt strong on my TT bike and very good on the run."
Good stuff. Right, next up, Sid is the ETU long distance champion. Well done, Laura Siddle.
Yeah, so Rob, that one was a race in Madrid, the ETU long distance European Championships, and you sort of start out in the Sierra and then you basically make your way down to Madrid, to the Spanish capital, and you do the marathon there. So brilliant result for Laura. She's done fourth at Roth this year, but winner at Ironman New Zealand and Ironman Australia, right?
Yeah, so it'll be a good little confidence boost for her ahead of Kona, won't it, that?
Yeah, 20 days away from Kona, and yeah, she's smashing it out of the park in Madrid. So yeah, Sid won ahead of Alexandra Tondeur and then Lisa Roberts, and then the men's race was won by Timothy Van Houten ahead of Pablo de Pena Gonzalez and Carlos Aznar Gallego.
And finally, a shout out for the races over in Ironman Italy. The men's race was taken out by Andy Bocchera and the ladies' race by Daniela Samler. And Reece Barkley took 5th there. I had a quick scan over the results and it looked like it was a really fast race. I had one of the athletes I coach racing out there who went 9:30 in the male 35 or male 40 category. And with a 9:30, he only got 10th in age group, if you can believe that. So super fast racing out there. Really tough.
I heard it was pretty warm as well, like 20, sort of high 20s, wasn't it? And
really roasty. And I think a lot of people who are not racing Kona but might have been racing there looking for a slot for next year, kind of thing, because it looked like it was real high quality racing.
Yes, and it looks like a really nice race, Rob.
Do you know anybody who likes going to Italy, Helen? Who could be tempted?
Do I know anyone who likes going to Italy? No, I won't know anyone.
Right up your street.
Wouldn't know anyone. Challenge Sardinia's coming up soon. That looks a really nice race as well, the half challenge. Looks really nice. Anyway, I'm not going there either.
Oh, right. Coach's couch this week then.
Yes. Now, Rob, Coach's couch. It's a question about racing in the cold and wet. Now, this is very good for any sort of late season triathlons / any duathlons coming up.
/ anybody racing in the UK in a standard summer, isn't it, really?
Yeah, correct.
So like the background to this is there's loads of stuff come up on the Oxygenaddict Triathlon community page on Facebook. Obviously on the back of people racing this weekend, people have been posting up the race results, which is awesome to see. But a really unfortunate week for us to have started the group in terms of the fact that so many people, it wasn't, like you said, I think 50% of the pros didn't finish at that race.
Pro males,
It sounds like loads of the age groupers didn't finish as well, and the group's just littered with stories from people who raced at Weymouth or who raced at other triathlons who got out of the water borderline hypothermic. And I thought, well, let's talk about this. The reality of racing in Great Britain is that it isn't racing in the heat all the time like it is in Europe or like it is in America a lot of the summer. But the truth is that any race can be affected by the weather at any time of year. I was thinking back to when I did Ironman France. I woke up on race morning, looked out the window expecting it to be bright sunshine, and it was black thunder clouds over the mountains. And I thought to myself, I'm absolutely snookered. All I've got with me is a tri-suit. And it made me think, you have to go prepared for whatever the weather conditions are going to be, because I suddenly realised out in France, you're essentially going for a 112-mile bike ride in the mountains wearing a thin piece of lycra. That's just the most ridiculous thing. I was completely unprepared, and I got lucky. The clouds cleared and it was all right. But I thought, let's have a chat about what we can do when we're racing in the cold and the wet that's different to racing in inverted commas, like really pleasant conditions that you can do to kind of protect yourself a little bit. So the first thing that we're going to come up with that you can do when you're racing in the cold and wet is to accept it's going to be different to racing on a normal, happy summer's day, in that you're probably, on very cold, rainy days, you're probably not going to warm up very much. So the first thing you've got to do is accept you're not going to be able to race just in your tri-suit. You're going to need other clothes on to get you warm as well. So the first two items you're going to need are arm warmers and toe covers on your shoes. They're pretty much, I'd say taking arm warmers, Hells, is pretty much standard kit to take to a race in the UK. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would actually. I definitely had arm warmers on last year at Ironman Wales. Tick.
Yeah, you get them on. Completely aerodynamic. They're a no-brainer. You can roll them down around your wrists if you don't need them, but have them there so you can just keep the bit of the chill off. The toe covers as well are something that I think is a no-brainer. I have them on my bike shoes probably 11 months of the year in the UK. They're about 10 quid. You can get neoprene ones that pull over the toes of your shoes, and it just keeps your toes warm, especially on a day when you've come out of the water and your toes and your feet are really cold already. So that can apply to pretty much any race in the UK or around the world on the day when the weather is not at its most perfect. Okay. Next thing we can talk about is having something skin tight underneath your tri-suit. So my top tip here is that Nike make those, other brands are available, right? But Nike makes some very cost effective, what are they made out of? Probably something like lycra, but they're like those pro footballers under their football tops. Sleeveless, V-necked, they fit great under your tri-suit or your race suit, and they just give you a little extra layer of warmth, okay? And also think about getting a pair of gloves on. I think this is the point where you start to give away a bit in terms of aerodynamics, but if you can't use your fingers and you can't steer, like a lot of people have said in the Facebook group, you're in really deep trouble.
That's just dangerous.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then the next layer you've got to stop looking at is things like, do you take a waterproof jacket with you out on the bike course? If you're going to be out riding for 6, 7, 8 hours and it's cold and belting down, it's probably being extremely hopeful to think you can go out just in a tri-suit, isn't it? So yeah, I know you had a waterproof jacket on at Wales, didn't you, last year?
I actually had a gilet.
You had the waterproof gilet on, didn't you?
No, it's not, honestly, not even waterproof. Because I really did think, I don't know if I'm being stupid doing this, and I think I just about got away with it. I really wasn't sure, but I think who had I spoken to? I had asked a pro what they did, and because you don't see, even in the chucking it down rain, you don't see that many pros in jackets, do you? And that was why I thought, right, well, I'm going to find out, and then it's my problem. If I've made the wrong call, fine, but I'll give it a go. And I guess it depends how long you're going to be out on that bike. And if you're going to be out on that bike for a very long time, absolutely go with that jacket.
Totally.
But
I think it's worth remembering as well, isn't it, that waterproof jacket is going to mean that you give something away in terms of performance and aerodynamics. And someone like you, seriously chasing down that kind of podium position in age group, going through your head is, well, I want to be fast, but I also want to be warm. I think we've got to kind of divide our advice up here a bit. And I think a lot of listeners, I think, see the pros and go, well, they're not wearing a waterproof jacket, so I'm not going to. If you're kind of one of the heroes hour finishers, what we want you to do is make sure we get you to the finish line. So we want to make sure you don't DNF. So
Correct.
that's the hard bit to get your head around, isn't it? It's doing what you need to do in order to get you to the finish line. And I've got one final little tip here. When you go down to the swim start, you can keep an old pair of socks on, because often keeping your feet warm before you get in the water is more of a challenge. Then obviously dispose of them responsibly, ideally to a spectator.
Now, Rob, that's a really, really interesting point, that one, because at Sandman, you all have to walk along the beach a little bit to get to the starting pen.
Yeah.
And yesterday, the water temperature, they announced it over the tannoy, was 11.9 degrees. Okay, so you knew that it was going to be very cold. They did let people get in the water to acclimatise beforehand, so you could sort of go in and, flush your wetsuit and just kind of dunk your head under and just get used to that temperature, so then it wasn't such a shock because you had to run in from the beach.
Yeah.
But I actually walked down because I had a supporter I had Rich with me, so absolute legend. So I walked down. I was able to walk in my wetsuit with socks and trainers.
Brilliant.
And I took them off fairly last minute. And I didn't realise quite how much of a difference for me that had made. So that was great, because someone else was like, oh my God, my feet are so cold. And I thought,
yeah,
I'm actually
totally
pretty lucky in that.
Yeah. If you can keep warm before the start, it's much easier to keep warm than it is to get warm. And once your feet get cold, they're probably not warming up until you get onto the run. They're probably going to be like 2 blocks of ice all the way through the bike course, right?
Yeah. And yesterday, again, because I knew it was going to be cold when we got out, when it was just going to be cold, I went for a really tight fitting top under my tri-suit.
Yeah.
So, and it was my tri-suit yesterday, it wasn't one with sleeves. It was like a vest top, kind of tri-top, more of like a traditional one from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had a long sleeve, really thin top, like you were just saying, on under that. And for me, that worked. It was fine in the swim, and it was absolutely fine on the bike because it dried really, really quickly. In T1, it was really funny, actually. Jane Eccleston, Lewis Eccleston's mum, listener to the show, hi Jane, was stood by my bike because, as I said, I was racked by Lewis, and she was like waiting for me to come in, and then she's like, yeah, come on, Helen, come on. And I was chatting to her while I was there, just laughing in my head, thinking, I am so slow today, because I went for socks straight away, which I wouldn't usually do, but I was like, nah, it's going to be cold and I'm going to be cold. So I was trying to get the sodding socks on with like cold feet.
Oh no.
And then we've had this before. Me, gloves. Yep. Hello. I'm the one who like wears them in the middle of summer. So I was like there putting my gloves on. Oh God. I was like, sorry, Jane, I'm not usually this slow. Well, I am.
Bless
but,
you.
But then anyway, I was warm, Rob.
Well, that's the key, isn't it? As long as you manage to get warm and stay warm.
Yeah. So it's fine. And I wore 2 swim caps.
Another great tip. When the water's going to be cold, that's a really good one to get the second swim cap on underneath. That can make a massive difference, can't it?
Yes. And I did that for the first time last week at our Dart 10K, and I thought, actually, I do think that made a difference. So, yeah, I had a slightly thicker one from a different race, and then used the one that they gave us, which was a bit thinner, actually, but obviously you have to have theirs on the top.
That's it. You said it. And you managed to stay pretty warm all the way around after that, did you?
Stayed warm, and it wasn't in that really thin top. I paid a fair bit of money for mine, but I wasn't too hot then on the run.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
Do you know what? Should we go into our interview of the week, Hels?
Yes, let's do that.
Let's do that. All right then. So first up, we've got to give a shout out. Our interview of the week is sponsored by FuelCell.co.uk, and again a bit of a throw in here from the Facebook group, Hels. I put up a post about FuelCell in the Facebook group, and one of the guys, I've lost his name now. I wish I could. I've lost it. There was a picture of a FuelCell on a Canyon bike, and one of the members of the Facebook group said, "This is my bike." I sent a photo of them to it. So he says, "This is my bike, and I have to say, FuelCell has used a couple of different configurations on my. I've used a couple of different configurations on my old, and on this bike, and the FuelCell is by far the best option. The previous Canyon option was a nightmare. You couldn't get anything in or out of it on the move. This one's so simple to use. It works fantastically well. I'm not sponsored by them in any way, and I paid for this, but I think it's fantastic. So there we go.
Paul Slater, thanks. It was from Paul Slater, Rob.
There you go. You found it for me. Thank you. Rescued by Helen. So we've got a competition where you can win one of 3 free FuelCells. What you have to do is follow on Twitter. You need to follow at FuelCell Europe. Send them a message on Twitter or on Instagram saying hashtag FuelCell in the message, and your name will get entered into a prize draw. 3 names will be pulled at random before the end of October, and everyone that enters will get a unique 25% off code for their first purchase. And you can also use the code Kona20 to get 20% off if you want to go straight ahead and order now. So again, that code is Kona20 for 20% off. So our interview of the week this week is a guy called Joe Spraggins. Helen, you will have heard of him before.
Yeah, met him after he was on. We spoke to him after Chester, didn't we?
A little bit of a chat with Joe. Yeah, he's a long-time listener of the show, and Joe is a pretty inspirational character. Actually, he recently qualified for Kona, taking 3rd place in the 25-29 age group at Ironman UK, despite being hit by a car during the bike leg. So, in his own words, he was rubbish at sport at school, and he's dedicated himself to consistent training over time, and he's pretty much managed to book his slot to the Big Island off the back of lots of hard work. So I just was mind blown at the time. I did this interview a while ago, and it's not managed to get published yet, unfortunately. But the idea, Hells, of getting hit by a car during a race and getting up and not only finishing, but finishing and winning a Kona slot as well, is mind blowing. So here we go. Here's Joe Spraggins. All right, it's a great pleasure to welcome Joe Spraggins onto the show. Joe, first up, mate, congratulations on securing the Kona slot at Ironman UK a couple of weeks ago. It sounds like it was an epic day for more than one reason, which we'll come to later. But how are the legs feeling? How are you recovering from the race?
I'm recovering pretty well, to be fair. The legs are feeling good, but it's the leg that is causing me the problem, because I took a fair old impact from the sort of incident, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So it's causing me a bit of issue. I'm able to kind of be back on the bike and swimming again, but I'm kind of having a bit of a run break to let it properly heal and get it back into a sort of 100% fitness.
Well, let's kick off with talking about that. The incident that we're talking about is basically I've never heard the story before of someone who's managed to get a Kona qualifying slot at an Ironman after having been hit by a car in the middle of a race. So hats off to you for getting the qualification first. But I mean, like, talk us through it. What was the day like overall?
So I mean, yeah, overall obviously had a great day. I think the fact that I could have got off the deck is just because I'm a particularly stubborn person, and I wasn't going to. I was determined not to let the crash kind of slow me down. But I guess if I could start from the start with the swim. I'm not a sort of a great swimmer, let's say. I'm always playing catch up. So I had a sort of, for me, very average sort of an hour and 10 in the water. But for me, it's always a case of just trying to conserve as much energy as possible and getting to transition one sort of as fresh as and ready to kind of kick off on the bike, which is where I start to hopefully make my way forward in the field. So an okay swim. So hopped on the bike, feeling really, really good, feeling really fresh, and started to kind of make my way through the age group field. So then I don't know if sort of listeners are aware, they probably are because a lot of them were following the race, but it's kind of like you come out to Adlington and then you do 2 laps around the kind of hills and the moors of Bolton and Lancashire. And first lap went really, really well. Sort of knew I was having a good day. Legs felt amazing. Was trying to hold myself back at points when I was kind of looking at the power meter and realising I might have been pushing a bit too hard in the opening miles as everyone starts to get a bit carried away. So got onto the second lap and found myself sort of approaching a car from behind who was on the bike course, and it was meant to be totally closed roads. So he was not meant to be there.
So it's just one of those unfortunate situations, is it, where a local has probably come out of the driveway trying to get out and found themselves, what a nightmare, found themselves on the bike course.
To be fair to him, I don't think it was anything malicious or anything, sort of deliberate. I think he just wasn't really aware of what was going on. So he was probably pootling down to the shops for his Sunday paper, to be honest. So I decided. So it was kind of like quite a main A road, so there was plenty of room either side. And traffic was coming the other way on the carriageway. So I decided I'd just overtake him on the outside. I didn't want to undercut him in case he suddenly decided to turn left. But unbeknown to me, as I went to overtake him on the right, and I had a look at my data file, and I was going about 25 miles per hour. He decided to, instead of turn left into a side road, he decided to pull a U-ey and get onto the other side of the carriageway, and he hadn't even noticed me. So as he went to swing round at speed, I was just literally at that point overtaking him. So I had about half a second to realise that I was going to hit him, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it.
Oh, man.
So I went straight into the side of him. Kind of the bike hit the front wheel arch area, and I went straight over the bonnet and onto the deck pretty hard. My left sort of thigh area took the majority of the impact, and I think that was quite lucky. If it had been something where there was a bit more bone and a bit less muscle, I think I'd have been in trouble. But because I sort of hit it there, the muscle took the majority of the impact.
Did you pretty much slide across the bonnet of the car then?
Yeah, it's kind of like a little commando roll over the
Dukes
bonnet.
of Hazzard style.
I would pay a lot of money to have a video of the incident to see it back, because I reckon it would have looked fairly impressive. So yeah, I found myself on the deck, and all I could think at that point was, as anyone would probably think, race over. It's all very well kind of maybe dropping a chain or getting a puncture, but if you get hit by a car, you're probably unlikely to be continuing.
Yeah, totally.
So I got up, and for about 10 seconds, kind of I was bothered with the driver, and I was like, what the hell are you doing? Did you not see me? Why were you on the bike course? And I very kind of quickly realised I noticed another age group, whistling past. I was like, hang on a minute, I'm still in the race here.
Yeah.
You kind of get kick back into race mode. The adrenaline gets going. Leg was really hurting. That was kind of I had a bit of road rash on my leg and my arm, and tri-suit was ripped. But I thought structurally I hadn't broken anything, so I was like, right, okay, well, I might be able to go, but the chances of my bike being one piece is surely slim to none.
Yeah, you'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
It was amazing, and me and that bike have had sort of a testing relationship at times. I've sort of not famous for getting a puncture or two, but that always seems to be my sort of fate in bigger races. I always seem to have something wrong mechanically, but this time it served me well, and I picked it up just waiting to see something wrong with it, and amazingly there wasn't. And apart from the ball horn had actually snapped, the carbon fibre kind of wing, so I couldn't put any weight on the left brake area. I had to hold the aero bars the whole time because it was kind of hanging loose, and if it had snapped off, then the brakes and the DI2 would have been no good to me.
Okay, got you. So you managed to get around the rest of the bike course. I mean, the first thing there is it's so lucky that you weren't killed, wasn't it? You hear stories of like a very similar thing happened to Jordan Rapp in about 2010, and he went through the window of a car and sliced his jugular. He went through the driver's side window, and like it's kind of a hats off. Thank the Lord you weren't injured, and it's almost secondary that you're able to complete a race. Really, you've really dodged the bullet, haven't you?
100%. And I guess whatever happened for the rest of the day, I was kind of, even though I was a bit miserable because my leg hurt and stuff, I was at the same time thinking, well, I'm lucky to still be able to be riding in the race. Yeah,
too right.
Like you say, there's been instances in the past where people have hit people at high speed and then ended up in hospital or worse. And it's I was very fortunate actually, looking back at it.
Yeah. How long do you think you were on the deck for? How long were you standing around before you got back on the bike and off you went, do you think?
Not too long. I had a look at the, obviously again, had a look at the sort of Garmin file, and it can't have been more than 3 minutes.
Wow.
So much so that people that were tracking me, because the only person that was traveling a similar speed to me in my age group was Lewis Eccleston.
Oh yeah.
And apart from that, I was riding quite a bit faster than everyone else. So on the tracker, only kind of people that really kind of knew what they were looking for in the stats and stuff noticed that something had happened. Most people had no idea that because I didn't drop a position, I didn't drop much time, so kind of it was quite hard to pick up on the tracker that anything had happened at all, which is quite funny. So yeah, no, I can't have been on the deck for more than maybe 3 minutes, but I think it did have an adverse effect on the rest of my race in terms of my leg. Well, definitely wasn't functioning at 100%. I suppose it's not the best strategy to have a car crash if you want to try and perform well in an Ironman. I don't think that's the best approach to take. So,
how long did it take you to get back into transition after that? How much riding was left at that point?
I was on the bike for another hour and a half after the incident, and it was a weird time because for the first half an hour I was just having a complete pity party. Like I was like, oh, this had to happen to me on this day. Just when I'm in kind of probably the fittest I've ever been and the best chance I've ever had of maybe if I'm lucky enough grabbing a Kona spot, and this has had to happen now, and and even if I get to transition, there's no way I'm going to be able to run. It's like I can every time I started to climb, we were going up Hunter's Hill, and the support there was amazing, but all the other guys was kind of riding around, they were getting out the saddle, and as soon as I tried to get out the saddle and put like a load of force through my left leg, it just wasn't happening, and I was like, I'm just going to have to sit and spin because that's a lot more comfortable. So I'm just thinking, there's no way I'm going to be able to lay down a decent run. But then I kind of flipped with about an hour to go, and I was like, right, okay, well, what's done is done. Me and Paul had spoke before the race, and we'd said, look, things happen in an Ironman. You might get a puncture, and you still got a great chance of doing well, and finishing hard in your age group. I don't think either of us envisaged getting hit by a car, but I guess once it's happened, it's happened. You just got to kind of put it behind you and just think about it afterwards and analyze it then. But for now, like, what can I do in this moment to get to transition to as efficiently as possible, and then see what happens from there, I guess.
That's a real good lesson, I think, for everyone, isn't it? In that, I mean, God forbid, let's hope no one else gets hit by a car during a race, but everyone's going to have something happen to them, whether it's having a sore undercarriage or dropping a bottle or whatever, and it's being able to press that reset button, because I think for most people on their big race day, everyone feels the same. It's like whether they're racing for a Kona slot or they're racing even to just finish under the cutoff, everybody feels the pressure they've put on themselves in the same way. And to be able to press reset mentally and go, okay, I'm getting back in the game, that's happened, and sort of fresh move forward, I think that's a massive lesson that people can take forward, Joe.
Absolutely, I completely agree. Everyone says it, especially in a race like distance like a half Ironman or an Ironman. There's going to be rough patches. There's going to be times where you're not feeling great, or stuff's gone wrong, or you've dropped your hydration, or you've just got to reset and work out what you can do from that point. It's happened. You can't change it now, so you've just got to reset and work out what's going to be the best strategy from then to get you to the finish or transition or whatever it is as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. But yeah, I think you're right.
How did you feel when you got onto the run then? How were you in terms of like soreness and pain? Because I'd imagine you felt pretty funky.
Yeah, not great. I was kind of really dreading the first step off the bike. When I kind of attempted my I was not going to do a flying mount for once, dismount for once. But I was like, I'll do it anyway because whatever. It is what it is. If it's going to hurt, it's going to hurt. So the first couple of steps, I put my feet down and I was like, yeah, it does hurt. This is suboptimal. So I ran sort of into transition with my bike, and I was like, I still had a good ride here, because like normally there's quite a few more bikes, and I think I was in sort of maybe top 35 overall off the bike. So I was like, there's not many bikes here. I'm still in the race for sure. Yeah. And normally, because I'm a runner by trade, I'd say, and so normally if I'm getting into transition in the mix, then I like to think I've got a good chance. But I sort of started running for the first sort of mile, and I came out of transition, and I was keen to let quite a few family and friends were there at the time, just kind of out supporting, sort of giving me feedback on my position and stuff. And they were like, oh, you're doing really well. And I was like, I've been hit by a car, can't carry on. This is a disaster. Sort of, again, probably being too negative. And I was running along, and there was this kind of some random locals on the side of the road, and I was just like sort of shouting at myself in agony, and they were just giving me the weirdest looks. And I'm like, why is this guy just running along and shouting? Like, what's his problem? And I was like, well, it's sort of, it was causing me quite a lot of discomfort at the time.
Well, in my experience, when things go south in an Ironman, it's very hard to pull them back together again. So what I'm interested in here is, you've obviously got a lot of muscular pain as you started running, but did it ease up and you were able to deal with it? Or was it just, did you have a change in mental approach and have a word with yourself and just carry on putting one foot in front of the other?
Well, so after the first sort of, I guess, mile or so, ran into Bolton Town Centre, and I kind of, the pain, I found a rhythm or a sort of a slight change in my gait where the pain did ease, and I kind of find myself sort of running fairly well, actually. And it was still, I could still feel it, but I was like, right, okay, let's just, like you say, reset and find something that's manageable. And then, don't think about running 4 laps, just think about running one at sort of roughly a pace that feels reasonable. And then go from there. And actually, for the first sort of half marathon, I actually felt pretty good. Because I'd gone in, as I say, I was coming in from a running background. I wanted to go in and run around a 3-hour marathon. And then I ended up running the first lap at that pace, and that felt okay. And then things are still going well in lap 2. And I saw my girlfriend, Katie, on the side of the road, and I think this is the only time where I got a bit too confident and probably should have really reined it back in. And I smiled at her, and I was running up Chorley New Road. And I said to her, because she's was bought into this sort of process as me. She's followed my journey the whole way, and she's as keen for me to do well as I am. Really, she's like my number one sort of supporter, and she's always there for me, sort of thing. And I said to her, I looked at her and I was smiling, and I said, Katie, pack your bags. As in, this is happening, because I was still in second. I knew I was in a slot position, and I was like, I'm not throwing this away from here. I can run. It's what I do. It's my thing. Like, come on, let's do this. And she got pretty annoyed with me, and she's like, she immediately put me in check and said, it's quite seriously said, Joe, eat, drink, concentrate. Don't take anything for granted. You're a moron, basically. And so you get to the turnaround at the top of Chorley New Road, and we turned round, and I saw her coming back not even 2 miles later, looking probably a shell of what I did 2 miles beforehand. And she you could see from her face that I was looking bad, and I knew I was feeling bad. And I just looked at her, sort of grimaced, half smiled, but not really. And I just said, Katie, unpack your bags. Because things were heading south in a big way. And from then on, I knew it was just a case of it was going to be survival. And just hanging on. You know how it is. Ironman marathon, second half, just 1 mile at a time. My leg is going to start reminding me that I've been in a crash with a car. And I'm going to start really feeling it. So I'm going to have to just really concentrate and remind myself why I'm here and why I'm doing it, and just kind of survive, I guess.
So you run along in second. At some point, I can see from the results. At some point, you got passed, didn't you, for second? And someone ran sort of 10 minutes into you in the marathon.
He did, yeah. My new arch enemy, Luca Vogelsang. No, I'm only joking.
Did you see him? Did you see him as he passed you?
I didn't. No, I was getting some splits. So there was a load of Clapham chasers who are my club, who I train with all the time, down in South London, and they were all out on the course. They were amazing. And my mum was out there as well, just going crazy. She's not the best at following the tracker, so she's very good at telling me where I am. But I'm like, but what about where everyone else is? And then she's forgotten to check, because all she knows is what position I'm in, because she's just screaming, you're in second. I'm like, that's great, but what about everyone else? And she's like, by that time I've already run off. But yeah, so there was this other chap out there as well, Ross Harper, who was an absolute legend. He was, have you ever done a sort of Ironman or race, and there's a guy that is everywhere? Yeah. And this guy was everywhere. I was like, how is he getting around? Is he driving around the course in a car? Because he's literally popping up everywhere. And he was giving me splits, and he was like, on as I say, the Swiss guy was catching me, and he was like, he's catching you, I think he's going to catch you. Do you want to know what he looks like? And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because he's probably going to look like this Adonis, like kind of striding past, like sort of, fresh as a daisy. And I was like, nah, let him go. Like, I'm going to do my own thing, because I suspect even if I had known who he was when he did pass me, I didn't see him. I doubt I would have been able to raise my game and go with him. So, he had a great run, and because he had the run that I was expecting and hoping to have myself. So I would have loved to have not, I know it's all very well and easy to say after the event that, you had a crash, so things are different. But if I hadn't have, I'd have been really intrigued to know what might have happened on the day. But
I think it's reasonable to think you'd have run faster if you'd not been hit by a car. I think everyone's going to give you that one, Joe.
I think so. I'd like to hope so anyway. But it's good, because it just gives me it gives me kind of motivation to have a really good day and see what I'm capable of, when it all comes together, I guess.
Yeah. And then listen, tell us about the roll down ceremony then, because you got to the finish, you're in third place. There's only a couple of minutes in it between you and second, which, it's arguably is the time difference you spent on the deck after being hit by a car. So you went to the roll down ceremony. Talk us through, for people who've not been, how did that play out, and what were your emotions during that ceremony?
It was a weird one, because I'd sat through the ceremony in Wales last year. So it was when they added a few additional slots, which is kind of good and bad, because there was 5 slots in my age group in Wales, but it also attracts, I think, quite a few people from abroad and slot hunters who are be like, oh, there's a load of slots, I'm going to go and race there. So I ended up in 7th in Wales, and there was 5 slots, and there was no roll down whatsoever. So I had to sit and watch everyone claim their slots, which was good for motivation, but hard to take. So I went into sort of Bolton. Last year in my age group there was 3 slots, but I had a feeling, because there seemed to be less 25 to 29 year olds this year, so there might only be 2. But I've now got Lewis Eccleston in my age group, who's an absolute machine. I think he's just been bumped up to 6th in his age group in the world in Kona last year. So I knew it was going to be a tough ask to kind of go there and compete with him. But at the same time, I'd sort of chatted to him beforehand, and I'd heard him interviewed on the podcast here, and he said he might not be taking his slot. He wanted to focus on other things this year and maybe go to Kona again next year.
Yeah, okay.
So then I was like, well, there's definitely going to be 2 slots at least. So if he's ahead of me, then third's probably going to be good enough, but not necessarily. So it was a bit of a sleepless night the night after the race, and then I kind of went to the ceremony, and they'd posted on the wall that there was going to be 2 slots in our age group, and obviously I finished 3rd, with the caveat that Lewis probably wasn't going to go. But until they call out his name and he says no, or he doesn't accept, I'm not taking anything for granted. So I'm sitting there during the awards, so nervous, and I think so is my mum and Katie, and everyone's kind of really excited for me. But at the same time, it's not a done deal until Paul Kay calls out your name, and you go up to the front and accept it. So they got to, and it's agony, because they start with the oldest female age group and they end with the youngest male. And it's quite a drawn out process.
I bet it is.
So I'm sitting there and they finally get to our age group, and Ross is again sitting next to me, and I think he's like, oh no, I think Lewis has left. I don't think he's even stayed for the slot ceremony. And sure enough, they called his name and there was no answer. And Paul even said, and then a couple of people next to me were like, kind of like going like, yes, sort of. My mum's like getting excited, and Paul Kay, I think, even said, because I'd spoke to him before, and he's like, oh, I bet Joe's support crew are getting ready to go mental. And then the Swiss guy went up, and fair play to him, amazing. I'd spoke to him, and he'd been trying to qualify for years. He'd been going to Ironman Switzerland every year and just missing out. And so he was over the moon. I think his girlfriend was in tears, and it was like kind of really lovely to see. And then they called my name. They got halfway through my name, and I was straight up, going crazy, and sort of tried to run down to the stage, nearly cramped up in both legs, and so I just kind of ended up hobbling up, and accepting and booking my ticket to Kona, which is like literally a dream come true. You know, I still can't get my head around the fact that I am actually heading out there in October. It's just it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, it's so good to hear the story, because it is the dream of so many people who get into Ironman to actually get the qualification slot one day. How many years have you been in the sport for, and how long have you been sort of thinking? I mean, everybody dreams of getting the Kona slot, but how long have you been sort of thinking to yourself, well, if I have a good race this time, it might happen for me?
So I guess the first time I thought it was a realistic prospect was in Wales last year. I've only done 2 years ago, kind of to the day pretty much, was my first Ironman. So I mean, if you look at it that way, it seems like quite a rapid progression.
Yeah.
And then I'd been doing running. I'd been taking my running more seriously for quite a few years before that. So maybe since sort of 2014, so 4 years ago. Because I was never sporty at school. Like I think I remember vividly coming last in the 1500 meters in like year 11 sports day, you know, and then I was useless. And everyone was like, you know, I was always a trier. I always loved trying, but I never had any natural talent whatsoever. That's kind of always been my sort of, I guess, progression. Like I've had to really, really work at it. You know, nothing has come easily at all. You know, because there are those people out there that, you know, super talented and they still work for it for sure. But I think people can see that they've got a bit of a gift for it, you know, and they really can, you know, they are really sporty. But that's never been me. I've always been a grafter, and I'm quite proud of that. You know, it's not come easily at all. But I kind of got into it in 2012 after the Olympics. I started working in the city, and I come from university, and I was probably, like most of us, a few pounds too heavy after university with a lot of drinking and eating and partying. So I felt sort of like I needed a change, or I needed to do something different outside of work. So I was just sitting behind a desk, you know, I'm in finance, so I wanted to do something different. So I signed up for like the London Triathlon and gave that a go. That was great fun. And then I weirdly I did a triathlon, and then I started doing running more seriously. So I joined Clapham Chasers and kind of got into running marathons and stuff like that, and it kind of built from there really. So,
it is a great thing about this sport that I hear so often people say, you know, I don't consider myself to be talented, I just work hard. And I think people realise more and more that ability to just show up day in, day out, train 2 or 3 times a day, dedicate yourself to the recovery necessary so you can do the next session. That in itself is, I don't think you'd call it a talent, but it's you can get really well rewarded for it in this kind of sport. Whereas I think a lot of us grow up at school and it is the kids who've got these skill abilities to kick a football well or dribble or whatever that get rewarded. It isn't necessarily until we get into our 20s when it shows through in sports where people have worked for a significant number of years back to back to be able to do well at swimming or running or cycling or something where the hard work really pays off.
Absolutely, you're completely right, and that's what I say to other people. There's no real magic pill in endurance sport, or there obviously are, but you get in trouble for taking them. There's no quick fix, or you can't just suddenly be like, right, I'm going to get into running in a year and I want to run a 3-hour marathon, then I'll stop running. It will, like running a marathon, it will really reward you if you train year after year and slowly build up, and then only then can you realize your full potential. Whereas some people just after ticking the box and they can't understand why they're not getting good really quickly, but it really takes time and effort to do it. And that's what I love about the endurance sport element, because it really does reward you if you're prepared to put the work in.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your training then that's got you to where you are. What would obviously you're a busy professional and you work every hour God sends probably, as well as trying to get the training done. How does your standard week stack up in terms of swim, bike and run?
Yeah, so I think it's definitely ramped up this season, and maybe in the last sort of 12 months or so, as I've decided to get a bit more serious about it. But I on a normal working day, I will actually try and train twice a day, once before work and once after normally. So it's rare that the alarm clock will go any time after 6. It'll usually be pre 6 a.m. I'm quite lucky. I I can kind of, my training is on the way to work, so the pool's on the way to work, and work's only a 20-minute cycle away, so I can kind of take in a swim on the way to work and be in and out, in an hour and a half or whatever. Or I could sort of, add an extended commute cycle through Richmond Park as part of my training. But so maybe sort of 2 times a day, and then I'll always try and throw an easier day in there where I'm maybe just having an easy cycle or an easy swim. And then looking at having your big sessions, in the build up to the Ironman on the Saturday and Sunday. So maybe a long bike on the Saturday, and then a swim and a run on the Sunday. I was in the last 10 weeks, sort of in the real build period towards Bolton. I was averaging about 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
It's a bit easier for me, to be fair, to sort of say that now, because I've not got a family. It's just me. It's just me and my girlfriend Katie. And it's really great because she's a really good runner herself, and she's really into her running. So we both understand each other's training needs, and we're able to kind of, and actually want to do stuff, so she'll go out for a long run and I'll go out for a long ride, and, she'll be out running after work. So it works really well. And then we'll both kind of get home at a similar time and be able to spend time together. So I'm really lucky in that regard to have that kind of setup.
Yeah.
So,
it makes it a little bit easier when your girlfriend or boyfriend understands the madness, doesn't it?
It really does. And then she's amazing. Like, as I said before, she's kind of like, she's not, I don't want to call her a fan, because, she's much more important than that, but she's so supportive. And I wouldn't want to do it without her, because, we go to these stupid far-flung places to do races, and, and we have great fun time. And it's just like a thing that we share together, which is so fun.
Nice.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Hey, well, listen, the other thing we haven't touched upon is your world record. So tell us about that.
So a couple of years ago, not London last year, this year, the year before, I decided to, I think the idea at the time was do the London Marathon, but don't let it impact on your sort of prep for Ironman that year. So do it in fancy dress, because that will slow you down. That was the initial thought process.
Yeah.
So, but then I guess me being me and being quite competitive, I ended up plumping on the costume, which would have zero impact on speed whatsoever, so because it was a choice between dressing up as a swimmer or dressing up as a bottle of tomato ketchup.
Got you.
So we identified those 2 records as the prime ones. I think it was ketchup because I was at the time obsessed with tomato ketchup, which is funny because I don't actually eat it anymore. But yeah, so we ended up Katie wanted me to be the ketchup. I wanted to go for the swimmer. So as usual, and I should probably, apologise, because I am stubborn. The swimmer won out, and so we went for that, and it was really, really fun. Had the best day ever. I had my swimming trunks, armbands, snorkel, sort of swim cap, goggles on the top of my head, I just had an absolute whale of a time on the streets of London, and ended up running a PB, and that wasn't part of, as I say, I was meant to run and be able to train the next day and recover. And I realised coming into the week before the race that I was in pretty good shape, and I was like, I might as well just go for it. So I did, and ended up, kind of running, and then got
tell us what time you did.
Sorry, I did 2 hours 42.
Nice. With a snorkel on your head.
It was really fun, and I was running down. There's a couple of great moments where I was running alongside James Cracknell at sort of mile 23 down the embankment, and then I thought I believed that I was in the lead of the fancy dress race, if there is such a race, which I don't think there is. And in the distance, about mile 24, there's this orange kind of, I don't know what it was in the distance, and I sort of slowly reeled him in, and it was a guy dressed as a carrot. And I was like, no way! How's this guy in the carrot slip through the net, in the carrot outfit? So I sort of pulled up alongside him about mile 25, and we kind of both looked at each other, and then it's kind of iron war, but fancy dress London Marathon war, sort of can't let this carrot beat me. So then in the end, I did end up just taking him down, which was probably my proudest achievement to date. So it's really, because I've had moments like that in the past. I ran my first marathon with Katie, her first marathon, and I was running with her. And we, in the last mile, there was a guy dressed as a giant trainer. And I was like, come on, Katie, you can't get beaten by the trainer. But on that occasion, unfortunately, the trainer did take us down. So I felt like this was kind of, revenge for the...
Every year at London, someone texts me and says, something like, I've run the hardest race of my life and I still got beaten by a Dalek, a polar bear, and a toilet. So it's
horrible,
it's hard, man. And you were that guy. You were the guy in the fancy dress.
This is it. I was that guy. So I do feel bad for everyone. And also, I'd written my name in giant letters on my chest. Just because everyone gets their names printed on their vest. So you can get a bit more support. And I was running past and everyone was shouting, "Oh, Joe, great, well done, Joe." And there was a few people that I was running around and they must have been getting so fed up because, every 5 seconds someone was shouting, "Well done, Joe," or "Look at Joe, he looks hilarious," blah, blah, blah. And I felt so sorry for the people I was running around as well.
Yeah. Oh, man, I can believe it.
So, yeah.
Well, hopefully you won't have to have a sprint finish with someone dressed as a carrot out in Kona. So
I think unlikely. You never know. But, or maybe I could be the guy in the carrot outfit.
Well, maybe say that for your second race. Get out there and have a decent race first time, man.
Absolutely. I think that sounds sensible to me.
Well, listen, man, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and tell us about your story. Really well done. I think it's always an amazing achievement for anyone to qualify for Kona, but to overcome the adversity of getting hit by a car during the race as well, I think is fantastic. So we wish you all the best and I hope we can catch up after Kona and hear how it's gone.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to chat again. It's going to be amazing. But thanks so much for chatting today. Really appreciate it. And thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure, mate. And congratulations. It's great to see years of hard work getting rewarded with a Kona qualification, mate.
No, I appreciate that. Thanks so much. And what I'd say is, anyone else kind of aiming for the same thing, I never thought it'd be possible for me to qualify for Kona. So it just shows what kind of a bit of a dream and a bit of hard work and sort of determination can get you. So yeah, just everyone else, just keep plugging away and you'll get there.
Nice one, mate. All right, we'll talk to you again soon. Cheers, Joe.
Thanks, Rob.
I love that guy's attitude, Hells. You get hit, you get back up again, and you cross the finish line.
I honestly, I don't know how he did it. And his blog is really good if you want to read it and have a look. And Robbie also recently won Brighton Triathlon.
Oh, didn't know that. That's impressive.
Yeah, I think he was like, wow, I've just won a triathlon. So he's looking in good shape for Kona.
Awesome stuff. Right then, and just before we tie up this week's show, we've got a couple of shout outs to give, haven't we?
Well, yeah, first up, Rob, was Ian Simon got in touch with us to talk about Tracy Sample and Joe Shallcross, who are from the Reason to Disability Tri. He says that they're both really keen and talented athletes. Joe's actually off to Kona shortly, and Tracy regularly pulls on that GB vest. She recently competed at Glasgow. She's also the chair of Triathlon England Council. She's head coach at Alnwick Tri Club as well. But basically, he says that they just deserve a little bit of recognition for the work that they do with this Reason to Disability Tri. And I've looked, and then Ian sent us a little video link about what it's all about, and it's giving children with a disability the opportunity to take part in triathlon, and it just looks like such an inspirational day.
It does. It looks awesome, doesn't it? So well done, you two. It's really good to give people like you a shout out on the show. And I also had an email through from a chap called Jamie Freeland who says, I'm a member of South London Harriers Tri based in Coulston. No less than 3 Kona qualifiers from our club this year, including 2 sub-9 Ironman debutants. Pretty sure this is a unique achievement in a small little club like ours. Firstly, we had Rob Drake, who qualified with a debut 8:38 at Barcelona last year. Jim Burdett won his age group male 50 at Ironman UK in 9:15. And Gary Laybourne nailed an 8:55 at Copenhagen, also on debut, to seal his spot in the male 35. So there we go, Jamie. Happy to give those 3 guys a shout out. That's a great achievement from a small club. Really impressive stuff.
That's amazing. Rob, finally, guess who? So obviously I just said I was racked by Lewis Eccleston at the Sandman Triathlon. He went on to take 3rd. Guess who we were parked by?
Go on.
Chris Standage, who went on to win the thing. He was flying, Rob.
Oh, really? Brilliant stuff.
It was his last outing as an age grouper because he's going to go and race in the pro ranks.
He's turning pro. So what's his first pro race going to be?
So it's Lanzarote 7.3, which, did I just say 7.3? That's a really good pro
We
race.
know what you meant.
Yeah. 70.3 Lanzarote, which is in, when you are listening to this, probably about a week and a half. So he's heading out to Lanzarote.
Great.
And he is the recent 35 to 39 70.3 world champion. And I guess he thought, if I don't do it now, then I'm never going to know.
Good stuff. Well, we'll have to watch out and see how he goes racing pro. Brilliant.
Exactly.
Fingers crossed for you, Chris. All right, Hells, I think that's where we need to wrap the show up for this week, isn't it?
I think we do. Can I just say thanks to the team at Always Aim High for a fantastic event and for letting me sell loads of copies of Fueled by Cake. We sold over £200 worth, Rob. So that's
brilliant.
Really good over the weekend. So thank you everyone who came and purchased a book. And if you haven't got one yet, then please do head to fueledbycake.com. And it's all for charity. It's a charity cake recipe book. Fueledbycake.com is £10. Loads of recipes from loads of triathletes.
Cool stuff. Get yourself a copy of that if you haven't got one already. And also a final thank you and shout out to our sponsors, precisionhydration.com. You can use the code Oxygenaddict to get yourself $9.99's worth of free pH. Sponsors are also foodcell.co.uk. You can use the code Kona20. And remember that if you want to be part of the competition to try and win one of three free, I'm trying to say that, Hells, three free FuelCells.
That's hard, isn't it?
Follow at FuelCell Europe on Twitter and Instagram and send them a message on there with the hashtag FoodCell. And also remember, if you haven't yet joined the free Oxygenaddict Triathlon community page on Facebook, get over there and join, say hello, and start spreading the triathlon chat on there as well. So, till next week, thanks very much, everyone. You've been listening to the Oxygenaddict Triathlon Podcast. I'm Coach Rob Wilby.
I'm Helen Murray.
And until next week, have a great, safe training and racing week, and we'll speak to you all again next week. Thanks, everyone. See ya.